Hey everybody, and welcome to Nerds of the Round Table, a show where we find and discuss the nerdiest news from the last week. My name's Jack, and I'm here with my older brother and OG gamer, Paul, and we'll start this week the way we always do. Hey Paul, what have you been up to?
Hey Jack. So haven't really played all that much this week. Been up to a lot of stuff outside of gaming and watching TV, but
In the real world, as we call it.
in real life. But I've been playing around a bit with Watch Dogs 2 and a little more gaming on the PS4 this week. So a couple of the games I haven't played in a while, like Grand Theft Auto 5 and the last Uncharted game.
Oh, cool. You like that? The Uncharted 4 I thought was really awesome. How are you enjoying it so far?
I enjoyed it. I literally just got it started up earlier today just to play the multiplayer, but didn't really get into it all that much. It wasn't really inspiring.
I'm not crazy about the multiplayer in that game, but the single player, as you would expect from an Uncharted game, is spectacular as far as I'm concerned. Recently, per our conversation last week, I actually went and got Neo, which is exceptional. I love
Is it?
I'm in love with that game right now.
So is it a Witcher clone?
No, the character is, but the gameplay is straight up just lifted right out of a Souls game. Or, I'm sorry, not the gameplay. Like all the systems, all the mechanics are lifted right out of the Souls game. So it's it's a very challenging game. Any enemy can be the end of you. Like any enemy has the capability of just killing you outright. If you die, you drop all of your experience like on the ground where you died. So you have to fight your way back to it if you want to recover all of that experience. Which it's just currency for leveling up. Really, it's not like you can get more of that currency by selling items as well. So it's not just from defeating enemies. So it's all the mechanics and systems that make a Souls game like super challenging and lovable, but set in like feudal warring states Japan.
So is there a way to can you level up anytime you have enough experience, or are there like set points, checkpoints where you can level up?
You have to return to certain checkpoints, I guess, in the level to level up.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are these like shrines with these little shrine guardians who are these super cute little green men that wear like soup bowls on their head.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of ridiculous, but if you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. And yeah, you spend your experience leveling up, or you can sell items to the shrine. You can like make an offering to the shrine in the form of items you don't need anymore to get more experience as well. And it feels very much like Souls in that way as well. Let's see, what else about it? Yeah, I mean, just the aesthetic. Like, it uses a lot of Japanese mythology to inform the monster, like how the monsters look, how your enemies act and fight and react to you. Most of the dialogue is in Japanese with English subtitles, which is, I think, always a nice touch. Oh. I like that. I like that a lot. Because otherwise you have, like, people putting on accents and stuff like that, or, like, people... I don't know. I think it makes it feel more authentic in that way.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the kind of game you would really enjoy. But I really do appreciate you saving me the $60 of regret
that I would have like it.
Put into it. Yeah.
Have you tried Souls games before?
I have not. I've kind of seen them being played, and I just immediately just say, no, not for me. So.
There's something about it, like, I'm not sure if it's easier for me because I already understand the formula and I already understand how to play. Like, it might as well have been made by the same company. It wasn't, but, like, it might as well have been because of how similar it is. Because, like, I almost came into this conversation saying it was easier, but I think it's just exposure to how that kind of game works. And there's kind of this argument online as to whether or not From Software, the creators of the Souls games and Bloodborne, created a new genre. Like, is this almost a new genre of game? And I don't know. It's hard to say, but like they definitely have their own style, And I wasn't sure how it would feel with somebody just kind of like biting their style, but it seems to have worked very well. So, like it's getting awesome reviews all over.
Well, I mean, even if they didn't create their own genre, they certainly have, created their own kind of term in calling a game a Souls game.
Yeah.
Everyone knows exactly what you mean by that.
Yeah. They've carved out their own niche, I guess, if you will. But we don't have a ton of time to record tonight, so why don't we start getting into some of these stories we need to talk about?
Sounds good.
So the first one is that E3 will be open to the public this year. Not like in just, not mass quantities of people, but still like a good amount of people. I think it was 15,000 people are going to be let in. And the price for the ticket is $250, which is a little expensive, but most of the time when you want to go to like a PAX or a Comic-Con, you end up having to buy tickets per day individually from like scalpers or something like that. So it could end up being cheaper in the long run.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a lot of E3 is kind of just I don't really know how much community there is at E3 so much as software companies, games companies, publishers coming in and just like showing demos of their games.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
it seems kind of like a waste.
Yeah, it's a very like industry focused convention. Like journalists go there to learn about games. Industry people go there to show off games. Like it's not usually a community thing. But as far as I know, E3 is not doing as well as it used to. Like several big publishers last year pulled out of E3. So maybe this is their way to like try, because of community driven events that these companies would rather invest in. So maybe this is their attempt to try and get some of that market back, if you will. But yeah, I mean, it's been a dream for me to go to E3, but at the same time, like most of the excitement from it comes from the press conferences. I don't know if I would get a lot from walking around on the floor.
Yeah, you'd have to. I mean, do they give any details as to what you are and are not allowed to attend as a general audience member?
Well, so I mean, as far as I know, most of the press conferences are held in like outside theaters, like not in E3 itself. So those are probably still going to be limited to like just press. So it'll be mostly, you would have access to the show floor, I guess, which is going to have like tons of demos and stuff like that. But for the most part, even journalists have said that when they go to these events, they still have to wait like 2 hours to play a game. If they want to like walk up to a line and just play a game, it's not like they don't get to go straight to the front. They don't get to, you still have to wait a really long time. So
yeah, well, there could be a lot of growing pains with this one. I mean, I understand why they want to do this, but if everything is the same in terms of setup, in terms of how things are organized, and then they're going to let in an additional set of 15,000 people, you have to wonder if the way that the event is set up allows for people to have a reasonably good time going to it.
Yeah.
Because if people are already standing 2 hours in line, is that even possible to change?
Yeah.
In any way?
No, I think you're right. I don't know if it's going to be a success like right out of the gate. But not everything can be like Fire Emblem Heroes, for example, our next topic, which on its very first day grossed 2.9 million. So if you want to talk about successes out the gate, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah, definitely.
So I don't know. Have you heard of Fire Emblem Heroes?
I have. It's the. Isn't it kind of like the next game from Nintendo out on iOS platform?
The next mobile game from Nintendo features like a whole bunch of Fire Emblem heroes from across their legacy or whatever. I've never really been a Fire Emblem fan. I've always been told it would be a game that I'd be into. It's kind of like a strategy RPG type thing, which is like up my alley, I guess. But I don't know. I feel like Fire Emblem started to become popular as I was dipping out of Nintendo interest. So it's I think it just missed me. But this game is apparently a huge success. I don't think I'm going to download it or play it, but like it is another example of Nintendo finding like massive success in the mobile market, and it kind of makes you wonder, is this the direction they're just going to go if Switch fails?
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll stick it out with the hardware as long as they can make a profit on it. But yeah, I mean, I think it's good to see them expanding into other platforms.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, iOS is kind of it is a huge opportunity for anyone who is a well-known publisher making games that people recognize.
Right.
If you were to look at any of the platforms that they would possibly release their games on, it certainly seems like iOS is the most likely, right? Because it doesn't directly compete with their hardware. Although some would argue that it does compete directly with things like the 3DS and stuff like that. So, they got to play it carefully, I think. But it seems to be working out well for them so far. They're dipping their toes in and starting to get more comfortable. So, I'm curious what's going to happen in the next year or so. If we start seeing some 3DS games come to the iOS platform, that might be interesting.
Yeah, you got to wonder how it's going to work out. On this on the website, which is hosting the story, sensortower.com, they have some pretty handy charts to show you how it compares to other games that Nintendo's released recently, and it's pretty much, I mean, for me, exactly what I expected. So on the chart that shows their launch day revenue. The gross revenue, Pokemon Go sits at 10.2 million, Super Mario Run sits at 8.4 million, and like I said, Fire Emblem is at about 3 million. So pretty much I think what you would expect as far as the popularity of each game, each franchise, and its monetization implementation. Because Super Mario is a game that people would be immediately attracted to, but it's not constantly offering the player opportunities to spend money, whereas Pokemon Go is extremely popular, as well as Mario is, but it is always giving you an opportunity to spend money on the game. So I can see why Pokemon Go would be a little bit higher on the revenue charts. But as far as first day downloads, Super Mario is at 6 million, Pokemon Go is at 4.2, and Fire Emblem Heroes is at 2 million. So
yeah, and one thing to remember, though, is that all of these numbers are estimates. So,
yeah,
it's hard to know for free-to-play games with in-app purchases what the revenue is going to actually look like.
Sure.
You can make some pretty good estimates based on traditionally how many people convert from a free-to-play game to to buying stuff and things like that. But take all of these numbers with at least a small grain of salt.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the next game that I wanted to talk about is this game called Into the Breach, which is only really important to me in that it is made by the same people who made FTL, which is one of my favorite games on PC or Mac or wherever you want to play it, which was this space roguelike. Did you ever play it?
I got it in a
Humble Bundle?
Some sort, maybe a Humble Bundle or a GOG sale. Mm-hmm. But I haven't really had a chance to play it yet. It does look exactly like the type of game that you would enjoy.
Which one, FTL or Into the Breach? You know what?
Both of them. Yeah. It does look interesting, but to be honest with you, if I'm being honest with myself, I'm probably not going to get to this one anytime soon.
Sure. I think what's attractive to me about it is that it looks a lot like an Advanced Wars game that I played on the Game Boy a while back, and it just looks like one of those very simple kind of old school strategy battle thing. I don't really know how to describe it. It's pretty interesting. I recommend that everyone check out the announcement trailer. But if you like those Advance Wars games, or maybe games like Final Fantasy Tactics or Tactics Ogre for the PSP, this might be a game for you. It looks pretty
How
cool.
would you compare this to in terms of gameplay to something like XCOM?
I mean, I would say it looks pretty. It's like that same grid-based combat, but this seems to have a lot more. This is played on. It looks like a much smaller scale, and has a lot more environmental interaction. Like it looks like certain units can like crush buildings or environments down to like allow other units to pass through. But I think it's a game that I just want to keep an eye on, and I'll have to let you know what it ends up looking like as we see more from it.
Okay.
But yeah, it looks like a pretty good time, and it definitely looks like a game I might enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of look like a game where you could jump into it for a brief, 10, 15-minute session and then move on.
Speaking of games like that, Rocket League announced that it was partnering with Hot Wheels to bring a whole new set of cars to their game. Which, God, I mean, like I played with Hot Wheels when I was a kid. I'm not sure if you did, but like they look very cool in the Rocket League aesthetic. Did you take a look at the website here?
I did. Yeah. I mean, it's right on the Rocket League website. So
Yeah.
it does look pretty cool. I did play with Hot Wheels when I was a kid. So, look, this is a great opportunity for Rocket League to have some, what I think it's paid DLC, right?
They usually, so they'll usually have these like paid DLC packs, or you can buy individual cars, and they usually release a new arena as well. I'm not sure if they're going to do that, but
yeah. No, it looks pretty good. It's if it gets people excited, I think that's great.
Yeah, and it's a game we've talked about before in that it just like keeps finding ways to appeal to its a new base or its own base in just like one way after another, and it's always giving stuff away free or adding new content to the game, and it's just it's a business model that seems to be working exceptionally well for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of these days I'm going to get you on that game. Definitely.
Maybe we should do a Let's Play or Twitch broadcast of me struggling.
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone struggles with it at first, and then eventually you just kind of hit your head against that wall until suddenly you're flying through the air and hitting balls into goals.
or just bleeding profusely from the head.
Yeah, well, so speaking of bleeding profusely from the head, Valve is developing new VR games. I don't know. Find your own way to make that transition work.
Yeah.
But this one I felt was a little bit more up your alley. I don't know if you want to take the lead on it, but
so there was a press briefing with Gabe Newell from Valve, and he was talking about Steam and the Vive and VR games. One of the things that they brought up this past week was they're dropping Steam Greenlight games and replacing it with Steam Direct. So we'll talk a bit about that more some other time. But the thing that we wanted to talk about today was that Gabe mentioned that they were working on 3 full VR games, which is really exciting for me. I've really enjoyed my HTC Vive, although now it is all packed away because I'm converting my play space into a nursery, so losing all of that space.
Sure.
But there are a lot of great experiences on the Vive and VR in general. But there haven't been all that many AAA titles because it's still such a new medium for consuming games. But I think when you get companies like Valve behind it, then it starts to the future starts to look brighter. And so to hear that they're working on 3 full games is awesome.
Yeah.
One of the things that is interesting that he talked about was kind of this relationship between the hardware that they're making and the software that they make.
Yes, I was hoping you would bring this up. This is very exciting.
Yeah. I mean, and he referenced Miyamoto and the fact that Nintendo has kind of that same relationship with its hardware and software, and it's very true. And you hear calls for people to release Nintendo game IP to other platforms, but when you make an integrated hardware and software solution, you can really make for unique experiences. Right?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true.
And I think that's what Valve wants to go for here with the games that they're going to be releasing on the Vive, or for VR in general. And so I'm really curious what they're going to do. You know, that's very Apple kind of mindset, where if you control the hardware and you control the software, you can really focus on making the experience and the integration of the two as unique and enjoyable as possible. So
right.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, so as far as like a major game company making VR games, it's kind of like who cares, whatever, right? But when it's Valve designing hardware and software at the same time, like he's talking about, that's where you start to get, you know, the exceptional experiences, and I think he's referencing that with Nintendo as well.
Yep.
I mean, because any, you know, Ubisoft or EA or whoever can make a VR game as well, right? And that would just be, you know, probably a great VR game. But if a company like Valve can make the hardware work with the software and the software work with the hardware in ways that some outside entity could never really understand or achieve, then that's where I think you'll get the best experiences. And for something as new as VR, I think it really needs that.
Yeah, well, and before we move on to the next topic, I'll just say, as a point of comparison, if you look at the makers of Crysis, I forget which studio that is.
I can't remember.
Yeah, but they just released a new game called Robinson.
Oh yeah, Robinson the Journey. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's out for Oculus, and it uses the headset and all that, but you still need to use a gamepad for it. Mm-hmm. And it's a game that would work so much better if it had touch controls, you know, or the movement controls. And it's just, game companies are having a hard time shifting from one to the other, maybe because they don't see it as profitable yet.
Yeah.
But with a company like Valve making their own games, they can really put the time in to get those motion controls right. And maybe that inspires or informs other companies how to do it right.
Yeah.
You know, because, kind of setting up that example of, you know, here's how you do this right. And it's coming from the people who made that hardware. So they've really got it nailed down.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. Hey, do you want to feel stupid about not knowing the Crysis developer? Because I feel stupid now that I looked it up.
Well, I mean, is it Crytek?
It's Crytek.
Yeah.
It's almost the same word.
Yeah. I just wasn't sure if that was the name of the publisher.
It's actually both.
Yeah,
the developer and
they've
the
got
publisher.
CryEngine is
CryEngine, exactly.
The name of their engine. Yeah.
I opened that up while you were talking about it, and I was like, shit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's move on to the next one, which is I thought was exciting for both me as a Mass Effect fan and you as a Witcher fan. One of the game producers, believes that they have achieved meaningful side quests, sort of like The Witcher. With The Witcher, you know, is highly lauded for, a number of reasons, all deserving, I think. But one of the things that really made a difference, in terms of how much people love that game and how much people appreciate the story and the universe there, is the fact that its side quests really felt like they meant something. They weren't just like, hey, go here, kill 10 things, or like, hey, you know, help this guy out with this battle or whatever, you know?
Right.
So Mass Effect trying to achieve something similar to what The Witcher achieved is exciting. And I was just kind of wondering, how does that strike you?
You know, I think it's great, and it leads to better immersion in the stories. You know, for so long, you've had games that were just, you know, a single storyline running from one end to the other, and then then developers started to introduce little side quests that were kind of fun or, unique, but ultimately pointless. And then as games have gotten bigger, as the ability to tell larger stories has improved, you're starting to see more and more meaningful side quests, and I think this is just the natural progression of things. So I'm glad to hear they're following in in that vein of Witcher or Dragon Age. I've really enjoyed the Mass Effect series so far, so I'm certainly looking forward to the new one.
Yeah, I'm very excited as well, and in related news, maybe bringing more depth and more realism to the universe, they've also talked about dropping the Paragon and Renegade conversation options, which is pretty exciting to me because they're the idea of having these like super black and white, good guy or bad guy points is actually, it's kind of outdated, and it can really remove the ability to have a gray area in terms of character development and player choice. And I always remember this extra credits episode. We've talked about extra credits a lot on the show. I don't know. Have you ever watched any of those?
Not really.
Oh,
No.
okay, all right. It's totally fine. I mean, I don't know how many people have actually gone over there and checked it out, but they have this whole episode dedicated to one of the choices in Mass Effect. I think it was 2 or 3, where your character goes to the Geth space station and has to decide whether to rewrite all the Geth to believe something different or kill them all.
Right.
And it was this like simple like good guy or bad guy choice, but the implications of that choice are much bigger than just good or bad. Like what it really is it better to? It's not simply like a good or bad thing to rewrite everyone and change their core beliefs. Just essentially destroying who they are, or just actually destroying everyone. So it's kind of like they could have either both been renegade or both been like one thing or another, which would have given the choice like more depth, but by railroading most players onto one choice or another based on how they're playing that character, it kind of removes a lot of the philosophy or a lot of the thinking from the choice.
Yeah, I mean it's too much like hand holding.
Exactly. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty exciting as well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's it for gaming news. If you want to jump over to TV real quick, we'll knock these stories out. And it's basically all about Netflix this week, as it often is on our TV news. But Stranger Things 2 had a Super Bowl kind of teaser ad. Bill Nye Saves the World released its first trailer. And Marvel's Iron Fist had its first official trailer as well.
Yeah, very exciting. I think it's kind of gearing up to be a good year for Netflix and a good year again for digital streaming and digital TV.
Isn't it always a good year for them? Ever since that stuff started picking up as far as original content goes and everything like that, it's just been success after success for Netflix for sure.
As long as they keep keep up the momentum and don't settle, I think they're in a good spot. Absolutely.
And of course, like we talked about Stranger Things on the show a while back. Like I love that show. It was awesome. I've talked about my excitement for Bill Nye leading up to this. I think it's going to be great to see Bill Nye take on some of the more modern issues that people really actually could use like a scientist to explain. And I want him to challenge the idea of him. There was a story about him challenging politicians and challenging businesses that spout uncertainty or try to mislead people into believing certain things. As far as science goes, at least, I found that very exciting. So I'm amped for that.
Yeah. I think this is kind of the perfect timing for Bill Nye because there is a lot of misinformation going on.
Yeah.
There are a number of things where people's opinions don't matter. And that's the great thing about science. You can feel one way about it, you can feel another way about it. and you're entitled to those opinions. But when it comes to making decisions, opinions don't matter at all, and it's all about the facts, and it's all about the hard science. And I think him bringing that information to people in a format that makes it enjoyable to watch and enjoyable to learn, I think that can only be beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super excited about it, and I love the title of the series says it all. Bill Nye Saves the World. I'm pretty, I'm excited for that. And then the Iron Fist is just going to be. It's almost weird to say this, but it's just going to be another awesome superhero Netflix thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of holding off on judgment for that one because I haven't seen too much of the story. I think at one point Amazon had a comic book sale, where you get a bunch of comic collections for like $1 or something like that, and I picked up the first volume of Iron Fist.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to read through some of that, get the backstory, or at least understand what the storylines are and who the main characters are. But I'm interested in exploring that because it's kind of like Jessica Jones and to some extent Luke Cage, a comic book series that I never really was exposed to as a kid. So I'm looking forward to checking it out.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you have a second, Paul, I want to just run through one or two of the questions that we got this week. I know we're running short on time. You got
a couple of questions?
Yeah.
Man, we've got some dedicated listeners because they turned those questions around quickly.
Dude, I tweeted out an hour ago in all caps, recording Knerds 81, get those questions in. And Andrew Minimas, who forgot to ask questions last week, sent those questions in a week ago, tagged with this week's number, so that we can.
Well, we will pretend he sent those in the last 5 minutes.
We'll give him the credit. But let's see, I gotta be picky here, people. So I'm sorry if I don't read all your questions. Andrew Middlewas wants to know, there's a big weekend of movies coming up, the 10th to the 12th. Which movie are you most looking forward to? John Wick 2 is his top.
Ooh. I don't even know what the other options are,
I don't know what the other options are either, because I'm so excited about John Wick 2 that I didn't bother looking it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you and I were talking, we almost had a story about John Wick on this episode, and it was basically just going to be you and I talking about how excited we were for it.
And how good it looks, and it seems to be doing fairly well in the ratings as well. So that's good. The only other competitors I think are Lego Batman the movie, which also interested in, but that can wait. And 50 Shades Darker. Which,
oh, thank God! I was like, Paul better say 50 Shades Darker.
Yeah. And as excited as I am to see that, that can also wait for a long time before I go see it. So.
Yeah, well, I just don't know if I'm going to have time this weekend to get out and see 50 Shades Darker. It's a shame, too, because I really enjoyed 50 Shades of Grey. Damn it, ruined my own joke.
Yeah.
But, John Wick 2, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lego Batman movie gets a whole lot of pickup, because I think it looks good. I think it's exciting. I'm excited to see what people do with it, but...
Rotten Tomatoes seems to think it's great. The fan ratings on Fandango look really good, so I'm sure it'll be awesome. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that one too.
Yeah. Now let me get another question here. Eric Myers wants to know, if Red Dead Redemption 2 gets delayed, do you think the early reveal will hurt overall sales?
No.
No, I don't think so either. I think if there is a studio, if there is a developer that is immune to any misfortune, it is Rockstar.
Yeah. For better or worse, they can get away with pretty much whatever they want at the moment. I am super excited about that game. I may have gotten a peek at Red Dead Redemption from like 50 feet away. At work one day.
Really?
Yeah. I won't go into that story right now, but I saw what looked like John Marston on a horse on somebody's computer at Rockstar. So I was like, ooh, I hope that's not a background. I hope that
Wait,
is
do you
someone
work
actually working.
Do you work in the same place as Rockstar?
No, I just happened to be there for work.
You and I have to talk about your job like a lot more. Now, the last question comes from Andrew Minomas again, who wants to know, out of the two, are you looking forward to Mass Effect Andromeda or Horizon Zero Dawn as the big game this summer?
Bastard.
It's a tough call, right?
I'm gonna go with Mass Effect.
You know what? So am I, because like I'm so ready. I'm very excited for Horizon Zero Dawn. Let me say that first. But at the same time, I'm so ready to get back into the Mass Effect universe. Like I loved the original trilogy. I've been wanting them to release a collection for the longest time because I wanted to play them all again on my PS4. But it doesn't seem like they're going to do that. If they were going to do it, the time was like, a month ago. So I guess, but I got to go with Mass Effect.
Yeah, I agree for pretty much the same reasons. And I would say that while I'm super excited about Horizon Zero Dawn, I looked at some gameplay, and it just, to me, it seemed to remind me a lot of Far Cry Primal.
Yeah, I think that's
which
fair.
Isn't necessarily a bad thing, but, I just kind of, I feel like I could wait a little longer to play that game. If I were to prioritize them, I would definitely pick Mass Effect Andromeda first to play through and feel comfortable waiting to play Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I'm hungry to play a Mass Effect game. I'm just pretty excited to play Horizon. So I think that does it for this week, unless you have anything else to add.
No, I hope to play a few more games this week and kind of give you my update on that.
Cool.
But nothing else.
Awesome. And maybe consider Neo. Go look up some gameplay. See if you'd be into it. Just take a look.
All right. I'll look it up. Maybe I'll watch some Twitch broadcasts or something to see someone play it. Weren't you thinking of?
I did
doing
actually. I did. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
I did one. If you want to go to the Twitch channel, Knerds Jack, there might actually be a saved broadcast there with some gameplay.
See, wasn't that a good prompt for me to let you
good.
push your Twitch channel?
I appreciate you.
There you go.
I do want to do some more Twitch broadcasts in the future, which is something I wanted to bring up to all of you listeners out there. If you're, I'm going to try and do one a week. I'm going to miss some week, but I'm trying to get my friend Austin involved. He's very interested in Twitch broadcasts and streaming and everything like that. So we're going to maybe do some Neo streams. I know he's really getting into that game as well. We might do some multiplayer games like Rocket League and Nidhogg and things where we can get really pissed off at each other. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to start doing that.
Cool.
And then, as far as keeping up with all our updates, you can follow me on Twitter at JackIsGaming. You can follow Paul at PaulIsGaming. And if you want to know what's going on with the Knerds YouTube channel or Twitch streams or anything like that, we will most certainly tweet them or retweet them from the Knerds podcast Twitter account. So definitely go follow us in all those places. If you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out and makes me feel really good about myself. And I think that's it. Thank you all so much for coming to listen and watch. I don't know, maybe I should have told you this before we started recording, Paul, but the last week's episode did really well. And I'm hoping that we can continue that trend. I would like if everyone out there got a chance to share this podcast with a friend or share the channel with a friend or whatever you can do to help us grow. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been having fun with this being my second episode, but I'd be really curious to get some feedback. I know my style is very different than Fred's or Sean before him, so if I need to tone it down or bring more energy, it would be good to get some feedback. So
Yeah, so if you have anything-
definitely comment wherever commenting is available.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want to comment on the video, we'll be sure to respond to you. Or if you want to tweet at Paul, make sure you follow Paul, especially because he needs some more followers on that account. So, but yeah, I mean, like, you've always been willing to talk to me about video games, and I'm sure if anyone had a question for you or wanted your opinion on something, you'd be happy to answer them there.
I'm full of opinions, so please follow me on Twitter and ask me whatever questions you want.
Cool. But yeah, I think that does it. So thank you so much for joining me, and keep gaming.